You're listening to Brilliance on the Spectrum with your host, Robin Williams. Today's guest is actor and comedian George Steeves.
So let's just get right into it, man. I don't know. Do you remember when we met?
Yes, it was very briefly in passing. It was through a mutual friend named
Sharon
Carrie.
Aragon. Sharon Aragon.
Okay, I thought it was Carrie Bowers how we met.
No,
Okay.
Sharon Aragon brought me to your show because Carrie invited us to
Okay.
see your Magic 8-Ball. And I came up to you after and introduced myself. And I said, I'm a fellow Aspie. I had some things in common with you, actually. Very gender confused myself. Unfortunately, didn't get it until much later in life. But I'm finally, I'm married happily in my most healthy relationship. And it's really nice. And it turns out I'm monogamous, but I didn't know that until I got this amazing treatment called Neurofield. And now, doing good. But I am so impressed with your background and your history. And I have been wanting to talk with you for a long time. So let's just do this, okay? Well, but you're known as being kind of a funny guy.
Well, yes, I am also a stand-up comedian. I have done 2 one-man shows, and the first one that you saw was Magic 8-Ball, My Life with Asperger's. I got a little more risky on the second show, and some people dug it, some people weren't as big on it, and that was called Love and Sex on the Spectrum. I had a point to make with the second one-man show. There's a stereotype that people on the autism spectrum are not sexual, and that everybody is asexual, and I wanted to be the voice that said, no, autistic people on the spectrum can be just as sexually active as neurotypical people. And that was the point. That was the point I wanted to make with my show. I wanted to bring a new voice to the table.
That's a really good point, though. That's why we created the relationship program. Basically because we were kind of getting tired of people asking if we were sexual.
Yeah.
Or being told we can't be sexual.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of a bummer. And we had people that had been in love and together for decades, but couldn't live together, couldn't get married. They would lose their support money through the government, what have you. And it was heartbreaking. So we figured out some ways, especially through costume play, for sex ed for people on the spectrum so that they could not end up on a predator list because they simply were uneducated, and that show you did was really great because it was really important. And I can understand how there'd be half the people that would be kind of poo-pooing it, but not everybody needs to always be politically correct. Sometimes we just need to be honest.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you when Richard Schiff was making a speech and you were in the speech? What was that like when someone called you up and told you that he was talking about you?
Well, that was a huge honor. I'll never forget that, actually. It was, it was Kobe Bird's mother, I think, who told me, or Shannon Penrod. I'm trying to remember who told me about it directly. But that was really cool because what happened was, I'll never forget where I met Richard Schiff.
Why don't you tell my audience who Richard Schiff is? Not everybody is familiar.
Being an actor myself, for those of you who are listening who are not actors, Richard Schiff is a respected film, television, and theater actor. You will probably best know him from The West Wing. For those of you who watch that, he was a regular on that, and he's currently a regular on a show called The Good Doctor. And I was taking my first one-man show, Magic 8-Ball, My Life with Asperger's, to Edinburgh in 2018, but I was trying to raise the money. So I went to Aughtfest in 2018, which was a film festival that Sharon Aragon had invited me to. And they were showing, Roman J. Israel, where Denzel Washington played a character on the spectrum. They showed a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie because there was a character on the spectrum. They showed episodes of Atypical. They showed, I was trying to meet different people. And I happened to meet Richard Schiff, and I just told him all about the show. And I was trying to get them to donate money to my campaign. I wasn't as successful in that part, but at least I was networking and putting my face out there. And the fact that Richard Schiff remembered me was pretty cool. And what was really cool was in later on that year, after I had gotten back from Edinburgh, Richard Schiff had started following me on Twitter, and he brought his son to see my show when I did it at Cal State LA in 2018, and I got to meet his son Gus, who is also on the spectrum.
Wow, now that is really an honor.
Absolutely.
That is awesome. So why don't let's go back a little bit. So what inspired Magic 8 Ball? Because I mean, obviously so many different kinds of things, but there must have been some challenges in your life that would have happened to you to create that kind of a show. And I would, and I've seen a lot of your interviews, but I really want to kind of dive into those challenges and what kind of things that you did to overcome them to become who you are, because you're doing pretty good. You've got some really good stuff under your belt. And I want to be able to share with people how we deal with those type of challenges. I mean, please share.
Oh, your viewers are in for a real treat, because I have some new announcements and things that I haven't disclosed publicly yet that I probably will talk about.
Wow, let's do that. I mean, I'm getting a scoop. I feel so honored.
Well, because, the reason why I moved to Southern California in 2008. I moved here in 2008 when I was 19 years old. I had worked my butt off for a year at a community college. I got good grades. I wanted to go to college in Los Angeles, or at least as close to Los Angeles as possible, because the truth of the matter was I didn't really want to go to college. I wanted to pursue show business. I was auditioning for American Idol. I was trying to get a record deal. I was working on a demo with a local musician in the Pennsylvania area. I wanted to go to Hollywood to try to do acting and film and television. I already knew what I wanted, and I didn't really want to go to college. So then I just decided to do the compromise, which was I would go to college in LA. That way I could go to college to make mom and dad happy.
Sure.
But that way I could go to LA to really, hit the ground running and get started on an acting career or singing career or whatever I could find out there. But I had to get out there to start first. So fast forward to August 2008. I'm 19. I go to Cal Lutheran University. And I did the whole college thing for a year. I lived in a dorm. I did the classes. I did the choir. I did Into the Woods as the production that spring. The only problem was after a year, I got bored with the college life, and I wasn't really fitting in to my college. And so I made the decision I was going to keep going to college and finish the classes and get the degree, but I was going to start going after my acting career. The only problem was I joined a class in my 20s that I was in for 5 years that turned out to be a cult. And I kept it anonymous in the one-man show that you saw, but I recently came out publicly in a Hollywood Reporter article last year, and I revealed her name. Her name is Gloria Gifford, and I was in the class for 5 years. And it was an acting class that was run by a Scientologist. And she was very abusive towards me. She was abusive, not physically, but she was mentally, emotionally, and psychologically abusive to me. She tried to tell me as an autistic man that because I had emotion, that I wasn't autistic, because who is she? Yeah, I know. Because who is she to say what autism is and what autism isn't? And so I fell into that for 5 years, and I can't completely knock it and say it was the worst experience of my life. Obviously, yes, it's a regret that I stayed as long as I did, because I committed to that for 5 years. And I did learn a lot about acting. She was a wonderful acting teacher, but it was just, I couldn't take the abuse that went with it anymore. So that's why I decided to walk away from it. And so, but I got a little frustrated by the time I got to 25, because I was in an awkward stage in my casting as an actor. I was too old to play high school roles now. I was 25, but I didn't look enough to play young professionals like doctors or lawyers. The best I could get was college. So I was starting to get a little frustrated. And also I had gone to, after I left the class, Gloria's class, I studied improv at the Groundlings, and I was trying to figure out what I should do next to try to make any kind of a career happen. I had hustled and bustled in the self-submissions. I was doing the Actors Access and LA Casting and Now Casting, and I was hustling and bustling on those, and I I even got tapped heart lead, which means you become eligible to join Screen Actors Guild. I had that happen for me right away at 22 through a new media project that an agent or a manager didn't hook me up with. And so yeah, I was just hustling and bustling. I had several different agents. I had several different managers by that point, but nothing was happening. So I was watching an episode of Oprah's Masterclass, and it had Whoopi Goldberg on it. And Whoopi was talking about how she wanted to work, but wasn't having any luck getting work as an actor. So she put together her one-woman show with all of her different characters. And that was what began her journey, because Mike Nichols obviously saw the show off Broadway and fell in love with it and put it on Broadway. And then Steven Spielberg saw it and fell in love with her in The Color Purple, and the rest is history. So I thought, well, maybe I should do a one-man show. So I was at the Groundlings at the time, and I had all these different characters that I started to develop at the Groundlings, but I was dismissed from the program after intermediate. Groundlings is like a whole training program in itself, and you have to go through basic and intermediate and advanced improv. And then if you pass those three, you have to go to the writer's lab. And then if you pass those, then it's like Sunday Company. It's a whole arduous to get up to the Groundlings main company to try to hopefully get discovered by Lorne Michaels for SNL.
You're lucky, right?
It's, I mean, hey, I still would love to be on SNL one day as a guest host. So I got up to intermediate. I didn't pass. So I started to take my show around to potential different directors and producers and writers to collaborate with. And I took it to this one guy, and I was telling him about the show and what I wanted to do with it and all the different characters I was developing at the Groundlings. But then I told him, just offhandedly, I have Asperger's. And he was like, hold on, stop. You have Asperger's? That's your show. That's going to be a show that audiences are going to connect with, that people are going to want to hear your perspective on that, since you have it. They're going to want to know what you went through. What were your struggles? What were your trials and tribulations? So I didn't work with him because he was too expensive, but I took the idea and I ran with it. I had hoped that they would just be my producers and help me fill the house, but then they ended up helping me edit the script down and chisel out some moments. So they just ended up evolving into being my directors as well. And we opened at Hollywood Fringe in 2017, and we did really well. We got nominated for 2 awards, and we won both the awards we were nominated for. And then from there, we did the show in North Hollywood Fringe, and we won a 4th award there. And then we did Edinburgh Fringe in 2018 and won a 5th award for Pick of the Fringe. And yeah, we brought it to New York City in 2019. We had a 2-year anniversary performance, one night only in 2019. We had a Broadway producer come who showed interest in the project. Unfortunately, due to COVID happening the following year, the interest kind of died down, unfortunately. And then I had a nice little whirlwind of success there for a moment there as an actor as well. Finally, after years of struggle, Penny, after Magic 8 Ball, they had set me up with Gail Williamson at KMR for my agency representation. And it was a little slow at KMR, but I hung in there. And then in 2019, that was when I got Saving Paradise, which was the first feature film I booked. And then that was when I got NCIS Los Angeles, which was my first guest star. But then 2020 happened and the momentum died. So a bit of a struggle. Worked as an actor since 2019. And, I took some artistic risks in 2021 that not everybody was on board with. I hired a different director for the second one-man show because I knew that Penny and Crystal were not going to agree with me wanting to explore the topic of sexuality in the second one-man show very openly. I had some people that loved Magic 8 Ball in my life with Asperger's, but did not like the second show at all because I dared to talk about sex very openly and publicly.
Do you have any
and
regrets
candidly.
about doing that?
No, because I'm an artist, and I really feel like the number one rule of an artist is to be a risk taker and not to be boring and not to be conventional and to go outside the box and to I wanted to at least start a conversation with people.
You know, there's somebody really interesting that you should look up. Her name is Danielle Shapuk.
Mhm.
She's a legless runway model who came out quite a few years back, not too long though. And she said, hey, by the way, if one more person asks me if I have sex or if I have a boyfriend, like what the heck? Like, why do you think that just because we are different, our bodies are different, our brains are different, that we're not sexual beings?
Mm-hmm.
I think she said it on 60 Minutes or something. It was pretty incredible. And then I myself, who was very gender confused growing up and had girlfriends and boyfriends, and you know, I didn't ever have anyone to really, you know, guide me in a constructive way, or in a way that wasn't hurtful or belittling. You know what I mean? They would just say, oh, don't act like that, or don't be like that, or don't think like that. But like, how can, like, this is me, you know? And it took a long time for me to come around and like learn what I really was about, and who I was, and who I love, and what kind of people I want to be with. And it was so frustrating because I was literally almost 50 by the time that happened. And so I think it is so beautiful that you came out and put that story out there, and the truth, so other people can, you know, can be inspired to be able to be honest about who they really are in their sexuality. Because let's face it, you know, time is short, you never know. And I mean, so moving forward, if you have an opportunity, would you ever be willing to go speak like in schools or with kids or teens or specials? Like, would you ever do something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, depending on the, age of the audience.
Right. I mean, of course it would be age appropriate, but
yeah. But yes, absolutely. I would love to get into speaking engagements and situations like that.
I mean, I think you should try that, because like when you think about it, you could take bits of your one-man shows and put that into a really perfect
legal entanglements, unfortunately, because I did have people reach out to me after Love and Sex on the Spectrum, because look, I did Magic 8 Ball to death for 2 years.
Right.
I mean, I got bored with it after 2 years, and I felt like, you know what, now my life story, so much was happening behind the Magic 8 Ball, and
Right.
I feel like when I took the play to Edinburgh, I went to Edinburgh the second time in 2022. I completely reinvented Love and Sex on the Spectrum right there on the spot, because
Right.
of my stage was a rectangular stage with a mic stand and a microphone on it. So I just decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to turn this into a stand-up comedy hour show.
That's great.
And so now what I would love to do going forward is I would like to take both of my shows, which were initially presented as theater one-man shows, and I want to reinvent them and reshape them and make them stand-up comedy 1 hours to pitch to networks
Well, that's a fabulous idea.
now I do have some legal entanglements there with Penny and Crystal, the creators of my first show, because they did it for free. And that's the lesson I learned the hard way, which is do not have friends do things for free. Because the minute
Unless you have it very spelled out.
yes, because
print.
the minute some success gets in there, it can make things a little tricky. But
Right.
just to say on the record, Penny, Crystal, and I were all on good terms. We have a documentary that we're trying to release called My Life with Asperger's. It's a completed documentary feature that talks about the struggles of not only being an artist on the spectrum, but working with people. And it's a very honest assessment of Penny, Crystal, and I's relationship. And you see moments where Penny and I fight. It's very honest, and you understand Penny's perspective, and you understand my perspective, and
well, I've worked with a lot of people, and a lot of people that helped me when I was first beginning my career as the fairy and all that kind of thing, my trademark. And I learned the hard way, like you, when friends are doing things for you as favors, as soon as money gets involved, it changes the whole dynamic. So what I've kind of figured now is it's almost better to have where you hire people, or you work with people that you're not paying them a lot, they're getting something, and there's a contract. That way, when you leave, they've gotten their pay, you have your contract, you can go do what you want with, you own it.
So now that I've just gone through a horrific breakup myself in my personal life,
Right.
now I'm going back and I'm re-examining things with Penny and Crystal, and I have reached out to both Penny and Crystal privately to make amends and just to say, hey, I want to go back and make this right. I want to give the both of you payment for your time for this show, just because that way if I do go to them later on and say, hey, I might want to go and take this and reinvent this as a stand-up comedy hour, and since I'm paying you, we should be okay if I want to do this on my own, and
Right.
there shouldn't be any expectation of anything.
Well, we don't have a lot of time, but I really want to touch base about this Shroom Body to Love.
Okay, yes.
That sounds really intriguing. Tell me.
Well, I mean, yes, after going through the breakup in my personal life, like I said, all well. I wish my ex nothing but the best, but it was great to dive into a autistic gay romantic comedy at the Hollywood Fringe, which is called Shroom Body to Love, and it's about two gay mushroom hunters who meet in the forest and fall in love.
Wow, that is interesting. And there's some truth to this story.
No,
there's not?
No, I decided to take a risk completely this time. The first two shows I wrote on my own, or I wrote them as directors, whether it was Megan for my second show or Penny and Crystal for my first show, sit down and edit and chisel with me. That way we had a cohesive show. This time around, George Steeves, who is the director of Shroom Buddy to Love, also wrote the piece for me. He tailor-made it for me. He was familiar with my work. We took a couple of meetings, and he made this show for me as a vehicle.
Oh, great. So it was built around you.
Yes, because
that's neat.
I'm taking another risk here at the age of 34, and I'm starting after Love and Sex on the Spectrum, I had parted ways with Penny and Crystal as management, and I had signed with a new manager, and I was still with KMR. However, just this year in 2023, I made the decision to part ways with both my manager after Penny and Crystal, and I decided to also, after 5.5 years, say goodbye to KMR.
I was actually with KMR for a little bit. It was really interesting because they put me in the section of the people that were special. But the problem is one of the interns confided to me that I wasn't special enough. And they kept sending me to a lot of the roles that were pretty much for neurotypicals. And because I can do voiceover and whatever, and I can sing like Barbara and Babs and Marilyn Monroe. So it kind of like messed me up. It did not help my fairy character at all. It's very interesting. So what do you think about that? So these talent agencies, they meet you and they see you're talented and they say, oh, we're going to just bring you the stars and the moon. And yeah, I'm kind of still waiting.
I don't want to, when I left, yes, there was tension with Penny and Crystal and I, but I would say now we've come to a good place. There's been enough time and distance, I still talk to the both of them. I'm still friends with the both of them. I'm going to be meeting with one of them hopefully this week because I'm still going to make amends. I'm still going to pay them for their time.
Good. Hey, so we have to wrap it up, but I'm so excited to be talking to you, but I really want to ask you my signature question that I ask everybody. Who is your hero?
Oh God. I have so many people I admire. It's hard to put it down to just one person, but
like the main hero.
I'm gonna be honest and say if I had to pick one person who was my hero, I'd say Betty White.
Beautiful. See, perfect timing. Perfect timing. I love Betty White. I think that's a really okay. Now can you give me like one soundbite quick? Why?
I feel like out of every entertainer, she really set the best example of how to be the best, not only entertainer, but best human being.
She is a humanist. I would call her a humanist. So George, if there is one thing that you like to tell people, like I say, shine brightly so others may have a lighted path, or if there's like a funny thing that's a one-liner, what's yours?
Embrace your weird. because there's only, I always say to people, embrace your weird, because there's only going to be one you, and there's never going to be another you ever again. So you might as well embrace everything about you, no matter how good, bad, ugly, indifferent, or weird.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I want to keep track of you so we can see your progress. Okay.
Absolutely. If I could just give everybody the dates real quick for Shroom
Oh,
Buddy.
please do share with us your whatever you want to share.
Yes, 1 second here.
And
so
you can always email me any of those details, and I'll make sure that I post them along with the video. Okay.
Absolutely. My next shows are going to be Friday, June 9th at 10:30 p.m. And then I'm doing a Sunday, June 11th at 9:30 p.m. And then if you don't want to go to a show that's that late, I do have two more, and it's on Sunday. I have another one that's going to be on Monday, June 19th at 8:30 p.m. And then I have my final one on Sunday, the 24th at 6:30 p.m.
Awesome. Well, make sure you email all that to me. Okay.
Absolutely. And I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you. And I'm really proud of you. I know that you kind of feel like you're not where you want to be, but you're still doing it, and you're doing it your way.
Absolutely. And you know what? All my love to KMR and my former representation. We all tried our best here. I'm thrilled to be starting over. I already have 2 managers lined up to come and see me in Shroom Buddy to Love. So I'm all about new chances and new opportunities. So
that's it. Exactly. We don't want to burn our bridges. We just want to move forward and learn our lessons.
Absolutely. And
Awesome.
I always go forward and just say with thanks to everybody.
There you go. We'll keep being brilliant, George. Okay. Thanks so much. Take care.